Okay, I will try to keep the time. There is a growing trend towards the disconnection of adolescents from their natural environment, which impact their well-being and health. Good morning, my name is Rosa Maria Mora. I'm a PhD student in architecture at University Laval. And the research that I'm working is Quebec for school entrance and nearby grounds as potential contributors to improve socialization, active living, and psychological restoration. So my research is part of a large research group that is SCOLA. And SCOLA is a group that is funded by the Minister of Education of Quebec with the mission to develop tools for decision-making of the renovation of schools in the province. So this is, just to put you in context, this is the province of Quebec. So it's a vast territory, as you can see. It's, if you compare it with Halifax, with this province, it's this province is 55,000 kilometers squares, and Quebec is 1 million kilometers square more. So you can see the vast territory of Quebec. Although the majority of the schools are concentrated in the south of the province, we need to take into consideration the territory that we have to, that the schools covers. So the schools that I select are from the phase of 1967 to 1986. And I choose this phase because it was what is considered polyvalent schools. So they were developed with specific characteristics of the buildings. And they are an important number of schools currently being used that need to be updated so they can match the current politics of the Minister of Education. So now the vision of education is different than the vision that was taken into consideration when these schools were built. So this is an example. So what's the problem? So at the time the schools were built, the layouts were focused more in the classroom and not necessarily how the classrooms or the indoor space connect with the outdoors. So there were no consideration about active living or active learning. So that's one of the challenges that I'm trying to address. So the way I frame my research question took several aspects into consideration, from the political context to the adolescent needs, the physical environment, and temporal factors. So everything I was trying to took all these factors to my question. So what is the role of entrance and near school grounds in Quebec comprehensive public schools for supporting students' well-being during unstructured times? So that's where I'm focusing. So the theory that I have been studying, I found that when we are designing for well-being, I found three important theories or thematic areas. One was active living by Sally, so how we can incorporate these spaces to promote or to sustain active living. The psychological restoration theories or thematics are also important, so how we can include spaces that support psychological restoration and well-being. And finally, the social development. So especially for adolescents, because when I was approaching the stage of adolescence, socialization is key in their development. So this is the framework that I was using to understand or to approach what I'm looking for in my research. So my hypothesis based on this is my theoretical hypothesis, how entrance and their near school grounds, a threshold between school buildings and the outside environment, can contribute to secondary students' education success by affording social development, affording active living, and providing psychological restoration. and I am more specific looking at its contribution during breaks. So this is my research design. Currently, I am in phase 1. So I am going to present you preliminary findings from the characterization of entrance and near school ground in Quebec province. And the method that I used was multiple sorting tags by architectural experts. So the school sample. So in the province, we have 391 schools. From that, the SCOLA, the consortium that I part, they did a representative sample of schools in the region that were randomly selected. They were 75 schools, and they were from the 90s to 2020. Since I focus in the school polyvalence, I choose that period of times, and I have a sample of 38 schools, and one was eliminated due to lack of data. So at the end, I was working for this phase with 37 schools, but I plan for the next phase of my research to have qualitative studies, so I will focus in 6 schools, but that will be my next phase. So I'm going to show you some preliminary findings from the first phase. As I mentioned before, I choose multiple sorting tasks as a method. So basically, I find 5 experts in school architecture, and they were, I create cards that they were able to sort with the plan view and with the elevation. And the objective of this exercise was the characterization of the schools, but also I was looking for the preselection of schools for my second phase of research. And also I was looking to develop a methodology for the spatial evaluation of schools entrance. And I choose this method because it has been previously used in architectural design by Lita Groth. So here I am, this is the research data flow. So I already collected data in last winter. I curated, I was using Excel for this, doing a data base with they were labeling each of these cards that they were sorting. So actually I was putting codes to the participants, to the labels that they use, and to the schools. And after that, I did 2 types of analysis. One, it was an analysis that I did with ChatGPT, and this was a quantitative analysis that I'm going to show you some preliminary results. And the second analysis was a thematic analysis that I used the Voyant for managing the data. So this is the first preliminary results. So basically, here you can see the school matrix based on periods with heat map. So I was taking all of the schools, so you can see the schools in the X and Y axis, and I was trying to see where the schools were paired. And what is particularly interesting from this, I focused in the ones that were paired more times together. And let's say they did 10 pairs, that was the maximum amount of times the schools can be paired together. And I focused in the ones that were 7 times paired together. So what I was able to get from this. And the other analysis, it was a dendrogram that helped me to group the school. Ideally, I was looking to see if I was able to do some typology from this, but so far I haven't been able to find a typology, but I have found some interesting data from the analysis. There were 3 clusters that I was able to identify clearly. And what you see here in these boxes, blue boxes, are the schools that were having the higher pairing. And you can see here the schools that I found. And what was interesting is, let's say in the cluster 1, clearly the school were having very low vegetation and the entrance were centered, compared to the cluster 2 that have high vegetation with mature trees. And the cluster 3 was, as you can see here, it was more wide, and the distance were higher. And it shows when I was looking at the images. So I found some schools that one categories were, where is the entrance? They were not able to see the entrance. And there were others that they were showing, let's say, difference in topography or difference in transparency. So the cluster 3 was less clear regarding their characterizations. This is the other analysis that I have been conducted. So all this sorting that the architects were doing were creating labels. And I took these labels, I put it in a software to see where to identify the words that were more used by the architects. And this is the results. And based on that results, I am going to create a category for analysis, because at this point, they were not, the architects that were participation, they were not creating an analysis of all the schools. They were just, this is more like a cognitive exercise. So now in the next phase is let's say my work as a researcher to take these categories and in a methodological way analyze all the schools based on the categorizations that architects did. And you can see like the biggest work were the ones that they use more, that repeat more. And these are some of the methodological strengths that I found from this exercise. I will say that using ChatGPT was a challenge, and one of the things, it has its advantage and their limitations. One of the advantages is that you can obtain data results very fast, and it also it gives you new ideas. For example, the heat map. That was I was following Linda Groth's methodology, and I didn't was thinking of doing a heat map like this one, and ChatGPT gave me that suggestion. So it has good things, but also it has bad things. One of the bad things, I make a mistake when I put the prompt, and it showed me everything was wrong, because I put 38 schools instead of 37 schools, and everything was wrong. But that's I think that as researcher, when we use ChatGPT or AI, we need to manually curate the data. So I then have to go one by one, making sure that the information was accurate. So that was very interesting from this research that I was doing. So I also then was trying to use ChatGPT with R. So actually, I was creating the prompt with ChatGPT and put it in R. So I'm not an expert in all these programs, but with the help of AI, we can do more than just, I think, with the knowledge that I have at this moment. And I'm still in formation, so. But yeah, so far, I think this is what I want to share with you. My next phase is that I'm working also at the same time, it's creating my online questionnaire for the students, because so far, I just gathered the data from the architects. But now we know that we shouldn't design just with the professional opinion. We need to know what the users think about the space. So that's my next phase. And thank you very much. Should I sit now, or the questions? Okay, sure. I feel the same way. I think that we all are maybe a little bit skeptical about using AI, but in my university, that's something that has become part of the education. So I took one class where I was asked to use ChatGPT, and also they asked me to analyze the results. So I have to check what is true, what is false, what it helped me, what it doesn't help me, what I have to double check. So that exercise was very helpful for me and for other students, and also for the professors, because the professors have been challenged to use ChatGPT at the PhD level and the master level. So we can actually learn, okay, what is this, and actually take advantage of this.
I'm curious how many results from this kind of method will be in other presentations that have been acknowledged.
Yeah. And I think it's important to be honest. Like at this level, we are not in high school. We need to say we are using these tools so everybody can get advantage of that.
So can you go back to the beginning of your presentation and show us these entrances in your nice photo, which really showed
This one?
the one, the real photo.
Oh, that
this
one, yeah.
When I read your four-pager here, I was really appreciating how grounded the context was for your study. You have lots of dimensions you want to study. It might be really hard in the single dissertation to do, but your context is so tight. Like you're really looking at this entrance, and so I thought that was a really nice feature of your conceptualization. And I also thought it was exciting. I was almost looking at these as like front porches, like of the school that the architect never actually designed it as a front porch, but you're trying to like turn it into that interface between the inside and a number of questions for you, but my first one was, do you need to take the surrounding neighborhood into account on this study? Because it seems like your boundary is the site, and do you think it would matter to take the rest of the neighborhood into account in some way?
Well, that's a good question. And I have been going back and forth with my advisor because these schools in particular, like they have sites that are very large. When they were designed, some of these schools, the building is floating in the middle of the site, so it seems a little bit disconnected from the neighborhood. So the question is how. I know that it's floating in the middle of the neighborhood because I have been seeing these schools already. So how we can suggest or start like digging or showing how this connection exists and how it can be improved, because at the end, the Scholar, that is the research lab that I am part, the idea is to suggest design guidelines. So that's like a very important question. For now, I'm focused on the entrance because I just want to make emphasis in the indoor-outdoor. So that's another threshold now. It's physically two thresholds: the building, the site, the neighborhood. Yeah.
It might be that everything fits really beautifully into this, but it also may be that since you're going to go right to them, there may be other emergent ways of thinking because they're very local to the site and maybe have a really giant picture. But many parts of this will, I'm sure a lot of this will come up, but I'm curious how much your method is open into other things outside the framework.
Yeah. One of the first thing that I did when I became part of Scholar was actually go to the schools. I did a comparative study between two local schools. So I was able to get out of the theory. when I was reading articles, I noticed that usually an article was focused in one of these topics, let's say psychological restoration. It talked just about psychological restoration, but as an architect, I was trying to integrate more theories to actually make it more applicable at the end of for the design guidelines. I know there are many things that are not there, like for example, one important aspect that I have found, it's also outdoor education. But as a PhD student, I was not able to grab all these or to be a master in all these theories. But I'm aware of these theories and their importance when we go to the ground and to the place. So yeah, I know that it's limited, and in the real life there are other things that are not included here. Also, another one is sustainability. This doesn't apply to sustainability, but that's why also there is a time frame limitation in my question. It's about breaks. So it's not about when they are taking classes. So I try to make a question that I can, small enough that I can bite and I can be an expert on that. So.
Because you bounded it so tightly
Mm-hmm.
to one area and say
Mm-hmm.
breaks,
Mm-hmm.
I think that allows you to take on more
Okay.
dimensions.
Okay.
That's I guess how I'm reacting to the work, because I think once you've chosen your curriculum. I have other things I can say, but I'd love to hear from others and others in the room.
Yeah, I actually would like to hear from others in the room because I think the retreat is for everybody, so it'd be good to hear what others have observed, and then I do have a few things that I think. All right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you for your presentation. I'm just really happy to be here and hear. This is sort of a question / unsolicited.
Advice.
When you do your data collection with students and surveys, will it be digital, or will you be able to go in person? Just because I found that doing analysis of spatial analysis qualitatively, especially with students, it's really helpful to be in person during the time when you're working with them, so that they can point stuff out that you
Yeah.
really excluded.
Well, that's something that I have been back and forward. Ideally, I want to be able to go to the schools. I have already visited some schools, but the next phase will be digital. Just because, as I mentioned at the beginning, the schools, the territory is so vast that I cannot visit all the schools. And at that phase, still important to have a representation of different regions of the school. So it will be a digital questionnaire. Hopefully, I will have. That's what my advisor told me. Maybe you will not have enough time, but let's see.
So hard.
Yeah,
So hard.
yeah. But yeah, and also there are so many information that when you are face to face with the student, they will tell you that they will not tell you in a questionnaire. And also sometimes questionnaire can be, they have limited time and limited amount of information that I can get.
Sorry, my last question.
Mhm.
Since you're specifically bound in breaks,
Mm-hmm.
will they take the survey? It's also like, I don't know, I'm a master's student, I don't have like an academic research typology for a PhD student, but is it important to take it during a break, or can they take the survey anytime? You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
like-
So there are different methods. Like the next phase, so far I'm designing it to be online. It will not be on a school day,
Okay.
but one of the other research that I want to conduct is behavior mapping. So actually, that's when the researcher is on site
Yeah.
and it's watching how they interact. They are not asking questions. But that if I'm able to do it, that will be the third phase of my research. You're welcome. Yes.
I think this is fantastic, really exciting, really, really like it, and I like the clarity of all of the boundaries of it. One thing that I'm wondering, especially with the qualitative, is if you had photo elicitation as any part of that, if you can't go to the site, that's one way to get information about what the environment is, and then having the students or the participants explain why they do, because that's one of the things I did in one of my studies, and it blew my mind. And then the other is just, I don't know if
Yes, that's I use it
Yeah,
for the
so I
social
thought that was
development.
really good. It's fun.
Oh, it's
Alright,
beautiful.
amazing.
And actually, one of now that you mentioned that, one of the challenges that I found is the term affordance. So I
Yeah.
put affordance there because of that study, and I noticed that affordance is used for behavior, but psychological restoration don't use affordance.
We'll talk later.
Okay, great. Okay, any other question? Mhm.
I think you mean social interaction.
Okay.
Socializing.
Yeah.
Socialization means how you're become a member of a society.
Mhm.
So I think you really mean social interaction or socializing. And the other thing I would ask you to do is to include in that diagram or somewhere in your presentation key references to interaction.
Mhm.
I was really, really thinking that, well, who is she referring to?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know when you have a short presentation,
Mhm.
it's hard,
Mhm.
but it would be really helpful to the
Mhm.
listener to know, and it would be better for your responsibility to those folks.
Yeah. Thank you. I have tried
You
several.
probably have that, but it.
Yeah. Thank you. Mhm. Okay. Any other question? Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Knowledge that we pick along the way, and some of it might be right and some of it might not be.
Mhm.
So I'd be curious to know if you kind of have sort of documented, this is what I think is the sort of like what, and then comparing that, and then allowing yourself, I assume that as you're doing research, you kind of allow yourself to become completely impartial, and just not, like, get away from your preconceived ideas and see where the research leads you,
Mhm.
and so that you can kind of like compare and sort of documenting that.
Mhm.
How you sort of understand that. I think that in general, as you present that for every day,
Mhm.
people kind of then want to use your research and be interested to understand that.
Yeah. Well, as an architect, I think that I was, we have a different training, like researcher. Like now, as a PhD student, I'm learning to be a researcher and try to, step back from my design, let's say, part of myself that want to give input. But at this time, I try to everything that I'm putting here, I'm trying to be, let's say, I cannot say that it's evidence based, but that's the intention that everything that I put here have some scientific research behind it. It's a challenge. Yes.
I just have one quick observation. I don't know that it's realistic, but it would be a wonderful opportunity to connect with educators in the schools, the state schools,
Mhm.
and they're always looking for us with real life experience. I can imagine the kids, you can get in the disposable Kodak little phone cameras that they're using, and just letting them see it from their point of view. It's like putting a GoPro on a dog or a cat, that view, that perspective.
Yeah.
It could be an interesting learning experience, and I guarantee that will impact some kid for future thinking about, oh my God, this is work that I could be doing,
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah, that's a beautiful suggestion. Thank you. Another question?
Yeah, so, you've gotten some great suggestions
Yeah.
for your work moving forward, or
Mhm.
rethinking, how you're going to convey the information. Mainly my comment, because it's not my fault at all, is the presentation itself. And first off, I would say, I mean, you're capturing people's attention, which is a really big, important thing when you're making a presentation, and I think you're very comfortable presenting. You've probably done it a gazillion times as a practitioner in your work, so there doesn't seem to be any issues there. At first, you combining having to read a little
have to read
Mhm.
experience, but also you were looking at us and engaging with us, and you spoke very clearly every word you said, and that is a great way, even despite what you have to say, that's like 99% of the presentation is successful. And you clearly are enjoying what you're doing, and that came through. The fact that these are preliminary results makes it a bit challenging to figure what really am I trying to say with it, and where can I go with it. So, and congratulations for being willing to do that, because it's a little bit, at times you're just not quite sure, how relevant is this going to what you understand what I'm saying. So it was a good choice. And, you gave us context and you laid the groundwork for where you're moving ahead. And just a couple of things that left me wondering. So I think I need to be brought back at the end as a listener and in the presentation at the very end, brought back to what is all of this going to contribute to in the end. Yeah, as a practice, this is practice-based research, really, right? So you're not finding any you're not developing any grand theories for processes. You're really trying to improve the retrofit of these very old schools. And I have 3 children grown now, of course, but they all went to one of these old schools. They were built in that era, and I'm well familiar with the challenges of them, as are many people. I think I really like, first also, at the very beginning, you established the context geographically. That was really important. And then that diagram that you showed of that era, that is the boom of the school building, right? In just about every province in Canada, probably every state in the US, I would expect. They went through a boom, especially in the 60s and 70s, to get all those baby boomer kids into schools, right? The children. And so, that's a huge infrastructure that we can just throw away.
Yeah, exactly.
So we really have to do something with it. I'm really intrigued by this focus on the entrance. What happens inside for me is actually more important.
Yeah.
I think what you're trying to say, maybe it's worth pointing out, and this is perhaps the diagram that does that, is that if you can't feel excited about entering the space, then you're never going to get them. You get them in there, but you're never going to get them engaged. So if that is the ultimate goal, to make, it's not just about transitioning from it is transitioning from indoor to outdoor, and you have to address that. But why? What is really happening there, and why is that so important? So because you're really it's a really tight question for PhD research. And there's a whole lot of other things going around it. So I think attracting us back to the ultimate purpose. So now, as I understand it, what you're doing is, at this stage, you're just trying to figure out which places am I going to focus on. Right? And so one place that I got a little caught up in, I understood everything very, very well until we got to the heat mapping and how that was all put together. So I think a bit more in a short presentation, it's very difficult to do, I understand.
Yeah.
Just go back first to slides before that. Okay, so what we're seeing here is this was a bit confusing. The picture, the objectives are clear, but what was going on in the picture was a little bit confusing. So I think it just needs a bit more clarification, how you get a different picture. But I think what's happening is your architects are looking at all these 75 schools and trying to say, this one tells me this one tells me that. And I mean, just kind of walk us through the process in about 30 seconds.
Exactly.
And then we go on to the next picture, the next slide. That's when I started to get a little bit more 75 groups with labels. And this
Too much.
is the innovative.
Yeah.
Then we get to the coding or the heat mapping. Here I was really stuck. The second image became clear to me. The first one was a bit unclear. So again, a bit more explanation of what that heat coding, and I understood 75 schools. So you've got, and you just think of people that really don't understand this at all. So you've got half of them on one axis and half on the other. Is that the idea? Like, what's happening there with 75, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so these are these little tiny things that, and then if you, the next slide, yeah, next one. Right, now it becomes much clearer once you
Yeah.
get back to this.
Mhm.
So it all came back again, so you kind of lost it in the middle there, and what happens then in a presentation is that I'm spending more time trying to think, what was going on back there, rather than moving forward with it.
Mhm.
So in this presentation, so by having said that, this
Mhm.
preliminary results, you're experimenting with presenting them for the first time. So that's meant an experiment. Yeah, so those would be mine. On the presentation, I cannot comment on, research directions and what you might or might not consider, otherwise put lots of great ideas. Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you for your feedback. Well, I don't know if I think it's time for the next one. Thank you very much.